That's
they
like
have,
these.
yeah, they have professional development.
Is that what we usually do?
Yeah.
Is everybody ready?
Yep, I've got them too, so I can help out.
Good. Okay. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Knoxville Community Unit, School District 202, board meeting to order, 6 o'clock on October 18th. Will everyone please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McCracken, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Ashford? Here. Mrs. McCracken's here. Mrs. Rose? Here. Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Young? Here. Mr. Stern?
Here. The next item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. Thank you everyone for coming to our regularly scheduled October meeting. I'm not sure if I have anything else beyond that. We will continue on through this. Item number 5 is the consent agenda. This is the discussion and action item. I will open it up for discussion.
I have a couple questions on the bills.
Yeah, everything on 5.
I saw, is there a way we can specify a little bit more?
Itemized?
Itemized, like, for instance, transportation ESSER 3. Is that an activity bus? You know what I mean? Because it's $38,000 for Bruce Foot.
Right.
Breslins, $14,000 ESSER 3 supplies. Is that flooring? Is it lights? Just a little bit more.
Specifics.
What was CDW government ESSER 3 for $23,000? All it says is ESSER 3 supplies for $23,000 even.
Yeah, I believe that's technology equipment. But I can, what I'll do is I can get those specifics to you.
And then like Renaissance,
That would be instructional software for language arts.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what you're asking, I think.
Yeah, I would just like it to specify if it's supplies for books,
right,
flooring, light, whatever.
Textbooks,
so
instruction, technology.
So what was the Bruce Foot, 38,000?
I believe that was the new truck or used truck for pushing snow for transportation. Maintenance.
I did stop by the office today and talk to Mrs. Nelson about getting itemized list for income and expenditures.
Okay.
Already, so I mean,
like I said, I just
we
wasn't
did
sure.
do a software upgrade last year. I'm not sure how many of the canned reports that she's gone through and regularly run on a monthly basis, or if there's something that we need to have specified for the information or not. But I did talk with her today, and she's going to work on getting that done.
Okay. I just, like I said, there was that 23,000, the 15,000, the 38,000. I was just a little.
Chase one also. What's the Chase?
Oh, 2-4, is that life safety?
I think
That would be our new phone system.
is that what that is?
Yep.
Okay.
And then what I will do, I was planning on doing a presentation next month too on ESSER funds. Just kind of show you where we're at, and that kind of ties in with what Mrs. Young just talked about too as well. But that's also information that gives you a little more.
So we have the ESER 1, the ESER 2, and the ESER 3.
ESER 1 is, has been expended. ESER 2 and ESER 3 are still, those are still fluid.
But ESER 3 has the requirement of public input for how it's spent, correct?
Absolutely.
A portion of it
Sure.
has to be.
Yeah, and a portion of it has to be utilized for remediation, for catching students up academically.
Okay.
So, but I'll do a report next month on that, and then I'll also have data in your hands for that too as
So
well.
with the RCI interventionist, is that the SR3?
Actually, the RTI interventionist is the Title I fund, which is, also a federal grant. So that salary is paid out of that,
So,
what will probably be good is if we go over the title grants and then the ESSER grants and kind of give you guys an idea what we allotted for expenditures there, what we budgeted, just to kind of let people know where we're at.
so ESER 1 has been completely spent.
Yes.
Is ESER 2 completely spent?
ESSER 2 is not completely spent yet.
Do we have a balance?
We still have some dollars in ESSER 2 as well, yes. And
Okay.
ideally what we want to do as a school district is spend those funds first before we spend ESSER 3, because we have till 2024 to spend our ESSER 3 funds.
So, but we don't have those balances on our sheet, right?
Well, yeah, we should, well, actually, yeah, you're not on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, you're not gonna see any revenue. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. We may have used some money to do expenditures, but we'll be refunded that money through the grant. Yep, that's what we'll do.
Is that like a city type snow truck or that one?
Yeah, for even that's used too. Oh, yeah. All right, one good to dust.
That blue one parked out back?
I think it's out there, yeah. Yeah. With winter coming, we wanted to make sure we were ready to go.
Yeah, that equipment.
Had the other truck broke down.
It's no longer usable.
Okay. Well, without having a committee meeting in the last 2 months,
Yeah, that finance
missed out
committee,
on that information.
But it's already been purchased then.
yes.
Any more questions for consent agenda items? If there's no more discussion on it, I would need a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
What about the payrolls? Were they in this packet? I don't remember seeing payrolls.
Just insurance.
I did not see payroll in it either. So we'll have to follow up with Mrs. Nelson to get the updated packet of information with everything.
We can definitely get that ledger to you.
Mrs. McCracken's made a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. McCracken, please call the roll.
Mrs. McCracken, yes. Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Dr. Ledford?
Yes.
Mr. Scout?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Stern?
Yes. We'll move on to item 6, public forum. Item 6.1, public comments. I have 3 individuals wishing to speak. Mr. McClary, you have the floor.
Good evening, parents, school board, superintendent. Sort of an impromptu thing for me to get up here, no notes just off the cuff here. I hadn't planned on speaking, but a couple things that prompted me to get up here is things that I don't think are necessarily currently a problem involved in our community and our school at this time, but potentially could be on the horizon. I know that Illinois currently uses a system called SEL, Social Emotional Learning. And my fear is that someday that may lead to what some of you have surely been exposed to in other parts of the country called CRT, which is critical race theory. And to my understanding, this practice of teaching tells you to teach certain things based upon how a person identifies or simply based on their race or color of their skin. It teaches that you are either oppressed if you are a certain color, or you are the oppressor if you are a different color. If you guys have not heard this, I'd be shocked. I would highly suggest to you that you do a little bit of homework on it. And let's make sure that SEL doesn't evolve into CRT. I'm quite certain that many parents are concerned about that. I would hope that you guys are. I don't expect a response from you guys, but I would like to know if you guys will oppose such teachings and curriculum in this school. If anybody's willing to go on record, including the superintendent, that would be appreciated. If you don't want to do it tonight, I would highly suggest that in the future, you put the community's mind at ease and let everybody know where you stand. This is bringing a lot of heartache to the parents of this community. Another thing along those lines is the sex ed that our great Governor Pritzker has bestowed upon us. It's been many years since I went through it, but I think it was my freshman year I went through that. But if you have not seen some of the literature in the books that are being proposed for the curriculum, pretty disgusting. I would ask once again, if anybody here would like to go on the record and state their current position on that, if we will or will not be having that garbage brought to the school district. If you choose not to answer tonight, I would highly suggest that you address the community, this school district, and let everybody know where you stand. All right, and the final thing is, this may or may not become here also, but the great Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, has considered fine folks like this to be domestic terrorists. Anybody that comes to a school board meeting and voices their discontent and would like to have some sort of discourse about what's going on, showing interest in their child's education. He wants the FBI to be involved. And people like this are now considered to be domestic terrorists. Would anybody like to go on the record and look out there or look here and say whether or not you think I am a domestic terrorist? I would like to think that if we need some sort of law enforcement, that our local town officials can handle something like that. But this is another thing that may not be here yet, but around the country it's popping up. So please, Mr. Schoonover, specifically you, I would encourage you to address the community as a whole and let everybody know where you stand. Thank you.
Mr. Mayfield.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Thanks for this opportunity. I just had some more thoughts, bullet points, that sort of thing, in relation to the ESSER fund and how some of the money is spent or could be spent, the taxpayers' money. So it's my understanding the school district's has gotten, will get anywhere between $1 and $2 million with this ESSER money. And it's my understanding this is not normal operating money. This is extra money, if you will. So what I'd like to bring to light and convey, and other parents have discussed with me, is using this money as wisely as possible, using this money on things that are related, additional costs the district may incur due to COVID, not things that had nothing to do with COVID, not things that are gonna increase the yearly operating cost of the school district. It's my understanding once this money's gone, it's gone. So, a few thoughts I have are, with COVID, people are more online, more remote than ever. So I feel it's more important than ever to invest some of the money in up-to-date, adequate audio-visual equipment, so when people both here in person and online can hear each and every member. It's important what you're saying, but a lot of people tune in on YouTube. It is very difficult to hear. Even when you speak and there's people in the back, it's very hard for them to hear at times. I would also like to suggest investing the money to attend any needed workshops for professional development with the School Board Association to help professionally develop the board so they're fully up to speed on all the regulations and policies so they can clearly, accurately communicate with the public. I would like to suggest using some of this money in a timely fashion, get our website up to date, get it fixed, have it accurate. There's people on there with email addresses, names, phone numbers that have nothing to do with the school district anymore. Somebody that's looking at our area from the outside, all of those things do not make us look well, unprofessional, and frankly, there's no reason for it. And lastly, it wasn't originally on my list, but I would think of it how I deal with it in my family. Hopefully I'm wrong, but it's my understanding from your conversation earlier tonight, it sounds like this whole issue with the $38,000 pickup truck, that it may not have been put out for bid. And typically, anytime you can put anything out for bid, you're going to spend the taxpayers' money the wisest. And I encourage you to do that in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to say thank you for hosting this meeting in this facility. I think it's a positive step for the board, and schedules allowing, I guess I would encourage that this be the venue for these meetings now and in the future, so as to nurture a relationship between the board and the community. that there would be comfort in coming and people speaking their voice in an appropriate manner and in an appropriate place. You would identify that over the last several months, not just in Knoxville, but across this country, I think people are venting because they're not being heard. And perhaps accurately, it could be defined as they don't believe they're being heard. That's a difficult nut to crack, but I think meeting in a facility like this is an appropriate way to try and address that. I happen to serve on a committee that Knox County had established to help that unit of government disperse and utilize the ARPA funds, the American Recovery Act funds. The Knox County Board saw the wisdom in reaching outside itself to establish a committee which was composed of Knox County Board persons as well as citizens in the community to help them determine the best use of the dollars that were available to them. I have the perception that perhaps the ESSER money may be confined in the same rules and regulations or related to that, meaning, amongst other things, there's a timeline that has to be honored to have those funds fully obligated if not spent. There could or would or should be guidelines as to how the money can be used, but I've not read them specifically. It does occur to me, a simple question occurred to me driving over tonight. Are we as a nation literally done with COVID? Or can we reasonably anticipate that we will experience other versions of it down the road? And if so, I'm wondering, do the rules and regulations allow for reserving some of those funds to help us deal with future circumstances? I lent myself in candidacy to the ARPA committee that the county board had established because selfishly, my own personal opinion was and is that one-time monies need to be used on a one-time basis. And I wanted to be in the circle of that discussion to make sure that the dollars weren't used in such a way that it ended up increasing fixed costs of the operation of the unit of government known as Knox County. Therefore, for instance, the monies couldn't or wouldn't or shouldn't be used to increase salaries, as an example, because when that money is gone, then we'll have high and dry locally to absorb that cost. So I'm not familiar with those specific regulations, but I would encourage that be the case. That whatever is done with the money, that it truly be done on a one-time basis, and that it predominantly addresses the costs incurred as a result of COVID. Those are defensible, I think, in the minds of the consuming public here in this community. Lastly, I would share with you or reiterate, on the two occasions I've been able to share some thoughts with you over the last 2 months. I think you may recall that when I did address the board, I was careful to craft my words and encourage that I was not there that evening to talk about mask mandates. I didn't define mask mandates as the problem. I also chose to specifically make clear I didn't define sex education as the problem or critical race theory. In my view, those are symptoms of the problem. And I'm trying to provide context, not only for the board, but for the community to understand what we're going through together. Nobody in this room, nobody in this county has experience dealing with this phenomenon. We're getting some, slow but sure. You'll recall that first evening I defined the problem as being overreach of government. And for the first time in multiple generations, Americans are waking up to a rude awakening wherein federal and state governments are imposing their will without representation. Cultural learning standards is the Illinois version of critical race theory, in my personal opinion. And that is now state law. And it was done in such a fashion that I, as a citizen, could not influence that vote. I didn't get to participate in hearings that were held around the state. Why? Because I didn't even know they were happening. We're bearing witness to federal and state governments usurping sovereignty. If we wonder why citizens are rejecting this and becoming quasi-hostile, it's because they're not being heard, and they're realizing they're being moved away from decision-making. To bring it back to the point, whether there's consideration or time available or to involve a committee of citizens to determine how the escrow money is being used is but one example where we deal with that. So what I'm trying to say is any local school board in and of itself is not the problem per se. But as representatives of the sovereign people, I'd encourage that you listen to them and understand you can't lead if they're not going to follow. And they're not going to follow unless there's leadership. I think people in this community are yearning for constructive, respectful pushback from their representatives. And I understand we're not all like-minded, but we are all feeling the same impacts at the federal level and the state level in particular. The escrow money could be held out as an example of us being held hostage. If the Knoxville School District had chosen to reject the mask mandates, would we have gotten the escrow money? I don't know. It's a dangerous precedent for government to hold us hostage with our money, by the way. At least in the case of the state. The federal government can print it. And in my personal view, that's what they're doing. And we're all going to pay the price for it. Final comment. My first meeting at the county's committee meeting, I advocated that we return the money. Because our generation isn't going to pay for that. It's future generations that are paying for it. And beyond. Which legitimizes me being here because it's my grandchildren that are going to be paying for it. Not me and not my children per se. So again, I would thank you for the forum for this. As it relates to certain curriculum that's going on, I can recall when I was on the board that we actually approved course syllabus and we approved the textbooks that were being used in courses at open board meetings so that citizens could come in and bear witness to what their children are being taught and what books are being used to teach that curriculum. As an example, if that's on a website, if each course is listed on a website by grade, by semester, and the books are listed on there, right, wrong, or indifferent, then at least the sovereign people are involved in the decision making. Ultimately, the board's not in charge. Short term? Yeah. Long term? No. Appropriately, the sovereign people are in charge. And as a matter of process, we need to keep that in mind. Thank you for your time.
Moving on to item 6.2, good things happening for kids. Mr. Tucker, you fire away.
Sure. So Ms. Taylor in her sewing class did a cross project where they sewed heart squares and sent a positive message to nursing home. So the kids each sewed a square patch in their sewing class, put a heart on it, mailed it to the nursing home, giving different residents a reminder they're special and someone's thinking of them. So that's something that's kind of went on there. They're kind of doing different projects. Construction class built a shed for local residents. Students were able to deliver the shed last week. Able to go rebuild it, roof it, do all kinds of stuff like that. So our kids are getting out there in the community doing some very positive things. We were able to send our theater department to Monmouth last October 8th. They were able to go behind the stage, do all kinds of stuff at Monmouth College, meet with Professor Rankin, talk about the inner workings, all that kind of stuff. So we're able to get our kids out to different areas to do that. I know we got another one going out this week to Hamilton, Missouri as part of the freshman English course. So it's really nice to be able to get our kids back out and about and doing some different activities that are out in the public. I know FFA is always out and doing stuff. They had their soil judging contest, October 5th, they finished second. They helped out and volunteered at the barn during seed drive, working with little kid games and activities. They're sending 13 students to convention next the week of October 25th for that, and we were able to do a lot of good things. Homecoming went well. We get outside with kids. We have our homecoming dance, homecoming game, and things like that. So we're able to kind of get some things going back in terms of getting kids doing some things, getting out. Student council always they're hosting an annual Halloween contest on October 29th. Kids will be able to dress up at school, be appropriate, and do different things in different categories, win some gift cards, and things like that. Every Friday I think the NHS is out doing their picking up the road and seeing them. I know I seen them last maybe it was Monday, it was this week. It was last Friday they were out on the road there. So a lot of good things going on with our kids and things as we're kind of getting through October and starting to get into
I know sports-wise, I mentioned last month, we are trying to get more active on Twitter, trying to get more out there just to publicize, football, volleyball. Once we get to basketball and wrestling, we'll do the same. We are still streaming football and volleyball right now on NFHS Network, so those are still happening. Still using Facebook to try to reach out to as many people as we can. Part of that too is just, get our athletes out there so that if somebody, if a Sandberg or a Knox or somebody is looking to round out a roster down the road, that are, we're getting our kids noticed. A couple of things that are sort of in the works. We are going to expand the Pixel-Lot systems that we have. So that's like our streaming camera here in the main gym, and then we have on the football field. Been talking to the people through NFHS. We're going to try to get those installed into Jensen, as well as baseball and softball. So we're hoping that that as the year goes on, we'll have more and more of our activities facility-wide.
Taking back on that, and one of the things we did look at the junior high, just so that's a question. Since it's the NFHS, they said that they would not put anything that's not in a high school, because they're the ones that was very kind of disheartened that they said that we would not be able to put it in the junior high because it's not part of the NFHS. So that's why we're going to Jensen, and we can get a certain amount of cameras for free, basically.
Yeah, so we are gonna hopefully also remedy the situation. I know, like for football, it doesn't show the score correctly, which there's a part we just need that piggybacks our scoreboard system that we need to do to get. So we're hoping that sooner than later that's going to get done. The press box at the baseball field, I believe, has now got power and water running to it, so we're hoping that that'll be ready to go for the spring. As far as our senior night that we just had this past Saturday, we had a huge turnout, biggest game of the year as far as the gate and things like that. We honored 40 seniors pre-game from football, volleyball, cross country, golf, band, cheer, dance, and this one, that's it, right? So we honored 40 seniors. I know that it's kind of a sour ending for us. We came up a little short there at the end, but definitely, well played game for us till the end. So we are playoff bound. We are qualified. We will be in the playoffs. We'll wait to see if exactly who we hope. We think we'll host a game in the first round, but we have to wait another week to find that out for sure, and then who our playoff opponent will be. But we are on the road at Williamsfield this week. We travel up to Oneida to finish the regular season. As far as volleyball, they were the runner-up at the United tournament a couple of weeks ago. Their regional was coming up here about this time next week on the 26th of October. They travel up to Manlius to Bureau Valley to most likely take on either Bureau Valley themselves or Midwest Central. If we can get through the regional, if we can secure that, then we do host the sectional, the 2A sectional. So our girls would get to come home and play in front of the home crowd if we can win the regional. So the sectional is set for November 1st and 3rd. The IHSA does do digital ticketing for that, so that is something I'm trying to kind of make aware, in the case we are in that sectional, that all the tickets are bought and purchased digitally. We don't have necessarily a money gatekeeper handing out, taking cash and things. It's all done through an app and a web page. So That'll be something that we'll tackle with that, but, you know, in the case that we are in it, that is just something to maybe keep in mind for all of our parents and grandparents and people that wanna come see us play, that you may wanna take care of your ticket situation ahead of time. Other than that, cheerleading is getting ready for their actual competitive season, so they'll be starting that. I know they're gonna start ramping up practices here soon. Band here in about a little over a month has their next big performance. They go to the Festival of Trees, and then our dance team is gonna be performing throughout the winter here as basketball ramps up at some of those games. And so, girls basketball tryouts start November 1st. The boys and the wrestlers start the week after. So, believe it or not, I mean, we are almost to winter sports. I hope our fall programs carry on, you know, right up through that and hopefully a little longer, because that means we're having some success. So, you know, overall, we're having a pretty solid fall, and we're hoping that'll carry on or over into the spring.
Thank you.
I know our junior high administrators would love to be here to supervising an athletic event right now. I do know that we did send out to the board a PowerPoint presentation of all the great things that are happening. Ms. Paul was not able to be here tonight as well, but as you can see, many great things are going on. One of the things that was kind of mentioned tonight in the board meeting was a talk of a website. We are very close to launching the new website that will be coming out very soon. We also will be, at some point, it may be a little bit later in this school year, but we're looking at launching a mobile app through Apogee, where we will be able to, it'll be access at your phone. So, you know, you can just click a button on your phone, an app, and it will give you a calendar, it'll give you lunch menu, it'll give you activities that are going on immediately. So I think that will improve the communication with not only our students, but our board, but our community and parents as well. So I'm real excited about that getting launched. But I have seen the website.
Which app again?
It's through a company called Apogee. So we're working with them to get that launched. But we'll take some time to get that platform put together. But the website, I've seen the website, it's close to being done. So it's going to be much more user friendly. You know, I think someone mentioned, you know, it makes us look bad, and I agree. It does make us look bad when the information is not, you know, up to date, and this will take care of that. So.
Do we have an estimated launch date for that?
I don't have an actual date, but very soon. I can tell you very soon. So, I mean, hopefully this month. So, technically we're working on that as we speak. But I do encourage you to take a look at that spreadsheet or not spreadsheet, but PowerPoint if you haven't. There's wonderful things going on in all three of our buildings. So thanks to Shane and Brad.
I haven't received that.
You haven't received that? Okay. I'll make sure you get that.
Did it get posted on the
I didn't
website?
see it last week, on the last meeting.
I didn't see it last month either. I just checked on
I think we might have just started doing it for this meeting. I think it's something that we've done in the past. And probably, you know, I think one of the things too would be nice if, I think once again we talked about technology, is getting a platform where we could put that PowerPoint up on the screen even for our community members to take a look at too. So it was great hearing some of the things that were being brought up tonight. And I'm going, yeah, that's going to happen. That's happening. So we're getting some things rolling.
To add on to that, in particular with the comment about the sound and video in this room here, that is one of the things that I'm addressing with Mr. Elliott, who's our IT director, as far as placement possibly of microphones or improved microphones and camera in this room in particular. It wasn't designed that way, but that's an update that we're trying to do is to make this room more user friendly, and that sort of the case for these type of meetings. You know, when we get to a point where, you know, we usually have 2 town hall meetings a year as well, which is basically just an open discussion on topics with no set agenda per se, and that would be held in here as well probably. So okay, moving on. Item 6.3, Superintendent's Report. Sub-teacher pay.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Stearns. And the boards, we've been in discussion, and we've talked about this a little bit about sub-pay and even eventually down the road, you know, I think even talking about, you know, some of our our paraprofessionals and non-certified staff. But with sub pay, you know, currently right now, we pay a sub to come to our district for $85 a day. And that's pretty significantly lower than a lot of our other community schools around. For example, and I know Galesburg's much bigger, but I believe they're at 150 a day, 120 to 150 a day. And I think it's important, you know, in this time of a shortness of substitutes, a shortness of bus drivers. There's really a strong need for them to help us out. I mean, it's not only there; it's also even with our teachers. But so we've talked about this as a board. We've had this discussion, and tonight my recommendation is that we bump that from $85 to $100 a day for subs. So will be my recommendation with sub teacher pay. Any questions?
So is that also for para subs? What is their pay per day? For an aide?
Currently it's minimum wage.
Okay. What about bus drivers?
Minimum wage.
So it's just the substitutes?
This would be just for certified substitute teachers, yeah. We have to approve it by roll call.
We do have a discussion item later on, down the road, so we can open it up for an actual discussion on it. So, move on to item 6.3.2, the amended calendar. Mr. Schoonover.
Yes, so SIP there on the agenda stands for School Improvement Days. And I guess, you know, I've always used this analogy or this description. You know, when you think of a surgeon or a physician, you know, when you're, let's say you have to have knee surgery and you're going and I know for one that I always am searching for someone that is highly educated, that's highly up to date on the new procedures, and in my case, I guess it would be someone that's performed many of them, you know, and been successful with that. So I think why I'm talking about that, what I'm getting at is I think one of the things, it's no different for our professional teachers. Our professional teachers very much so need ongoing professional development because we want our teachers to be most up to date. We want them to be educated. We want them to be the best, highest quality teachers possible. In order to do that, you've got to get better. And to get better, you need professional development. You need training. One of the things that I and others, educators and the board have noticed is our current calendar really does not have a whole lot of time set aside for teachers to have that time for school improvement. And ideally, in other districts that I've been, what has worked out well is what we call early outs. And you know, you can start, you know, probably once a month, an early out. So you get out an hour early, students get home an hour early. We're looking, you know, normally we look at something like on a Friday, it could be a Wednesday. I think right now we're looking at Fridays as something we're looking at doing here. And adding 5 school improvement days. So that'd be 5 hours. So what happens then, during that hour at the end of the day, our administrators and our teachers have that time to have professional development to get better. And the reason why I guess I bring up, you know, the physician, the surgeon example is I can remember as a 22-year-old teacher and my very own parents saying to me, well, on those school improvement days, you don't do anything. You teachers don't do anything. And it used to drive me insane because as an educator, I knew on those school improvement days we were having excellent training to become better teachers. So mom and dad take that. So, but anyway, so what we're looking at, and I put this on in front of the board tonight to take a look. I highlighted the calendar, and we're looking at starting in December. So we're looking at 5 dates, and they are on Fridays. So December 3rd, January 14th, these are Fridays, March 4th, April 1st, and May 6th. If you notice, I skipped February. The reason why is we already have a school improvement day, full day, scheduled for the calendar. So it would be a change on 5 days. It would impact our families and their students, because we're looking at an hour early dismissal, but ultimately it would impact greatly the growth, the professional development of our teachers, so they can be the best they can be to service our blue goals. So that is my recommendation. And this is a recommendation that I talked with the administrators with. We had administrative meetings. I've talked with the teachers union about it as well. And of course, they welcomed more time for professional development. So my recommendation would be those dates, moving on, starting in December, early out, an hour out early, where our staffs at all three buildings would have an opportunity for extended and more professional development to get better as educators.
Thank you, Mr. Schoonover.
You're welcome.
Item 6.4, board committee reports. As of right now, we still do not have a day scheduled to have our committee meetings. I believe last I talked with Mrs. Walter, she was still waiting on 2 responses from the survey that she sent out. So we can get those, get that day scheduled. I will check with her again tomorrow. If they still haven't been received, I'll go ahead and notify everyone as far as when we'll day and week of the month that we will plan to have committee meetings. Under committee as well, I did talk with Mr. Reed. He would like to make the suggestion to the board that we dedicate the new baseball concession stand to Mike Kemmer. Mike was a longtime baseball coach, teacher, administrator here, and Rick would like to have that concession stand dedicated in Mike's name. So we can talk about that in the future, but just want to inform everybody on that. Moving on to section 9, new business. Approval of the amended 2022 school calendar that Mr. Schoonover just presented. Open that up for discussion and action. Anybody have any questions or comments to Mr. Schoonover on that?
I have a question. Is it like a structured hour where everybody in the building is on the same, doing the same thing, or is this individual learning, or exactly what are those days?
Yeah, excellent question. To answer your question, yes, it's more group oriented. For example, at the high school, we're looking at getting our PLCs, our professional learning communities, established. So it would be groups that would have different topics that they talk about. It may be a focus on technology, maybe a focus on language arts, maybe a focus, will probably definitely be a focus on RTI. For example, at Mabel, we've got some new initiatives going on in the area of language arts and mathematics. So in order for the materials that they're using for those initiatives, they would have that time for training how to use those materials, how to utilize those materials. So I guess I would say more group, not individual, as much, more group as a group.
Is it mandatory?
I don't think it's mandatory, but it's highly needed. And you know, when you've got new materials and new curriculum and
No, I think what she's meaning was, are we going to make it mandatory for our teachers?
Oh, yeah, it's mandatory, yes. John misunderstood. Yes, this is a mandated, it's mandatory for professional development. The teachers will be here.
Yeah, they can't leave early.
Yeah, they will be here during their contractual time, which is what's great is we're looking at 90 minutes. So 90 minutes times 5 additional days. So
for the new board members, I would say that Mr. Burgess brought this to our attention last year. He wanted to implement this process as well last year, but it didn't make sense at the time because we started off remote and then hybrid, and just the way it was communicated across, we didn't see where it fit into the schedule because it was like, well, we're going to do it on Fridays. Students aren't in school on Fridays anyway, so the teachers were already there. We didn't see the necessity of providing that at the time. Now with everybody back in school, I see where it could be a necessary item, for keeping our teachers, informed and whatnot.
And there's already topics kind of
Oh, yeah.
thought about for each month to have a different topic.
Oh, yeah, we have plenty, we just needed the time. And to add to what Mr. Stern says too, ultimately, the goal here is to get our teachers more training, to be better educators, that in turn helps our students achieve. But also, if by doing this, the other angle we were looking at was spending our money to hire subs to come in to free up teacher time, or to pay teachers extra money outside the contractual time. So to me, it's two positives. The number one positive is it's training our teachers to be better, to help our students be more successful, to help them achieve. But also by doing that, we're also financially saving dollars.
What about the aides and paras? Will they be included? Because you don't want them to miss out on.
Absolutely, they will definitely be included. They will be there that extra hour and a half as well too. Yeah, absolutely. Working on their initiatives.
How does this affect the school day? Is it everything shortened that day, or are we on this calendar period, the last class period getting chopped off?
Yeah, the high school, you guys run a short
We
schedule.
run a 2 to 7, so basically, you might,
Okay,
yeah, and
Everything loses a few minutes.
each
okay,
class
so it
period.
affects everything in that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
We might shorten our advisory or something like that, so yes, we do all 8 periods. We did that last Friday, yesterday.
We do understand that it's, 5 more days, a little challenging for parents, but I think it's paying off for our stakeholders, our children and our teachers, have that much more success.
And we can always reevaluate after the school year too,
Yeah.
and see the
Yeah.
benefits and hear from them.
Absolutely, because some school districts do 2 a month, so, we can reevaluate and see if that's necessary, or if we need to shorten it.
Yeah, where I came from was every week. Everyone.
Oh, okay, Peoria was every week, they got us early out.
12:30 on every Wednesday.
Is there any more discussion needed on the amended calendar?
I make a motion to approve the amended calendar.
I'll second.
Was that Mrs. Harshbarger?
Yes.
Okay. Motion from Dr. Harshbarger, second from Mrs. Rose. Mrs. McCracken, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Harshbarger?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. McCracken, yes. Mr. Stout?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Stern?
Yes. Item 9.2, approval of pay increase for sub-teachers. This is a discussion and action item. This is to carry on with the discussion Mr. Schoonover just had. Open it up to the board for further discussion.
I guess the only question I had is the $100 per day put us in line with some of the smaller districts in the area. I mean, I know we're not gonna be able to compete with Galesburg.
Yes,
But
it
like
does.
with adding in Monmouth,
Yeah.
Rolla,
Yeah, puts us in line, absolutely, yeah.
How many subs?
Right now we are below.
okay.
How many
Does that-
subs on average are we having?
I'm sorry.
How many subs
How many subs do we have?
usually have?
Ooh, that's a great question. It varies. How many subs do you have a day, Shane? It just varies. I mean, some days it's, we're up to 6 or 7, and some days we're only at 1. or
Some
2.
of ours, we farm out
Yeah,
in-house, so we do
Right.
that sometimes too, because we can't find who we
yeah.
need, so.
I know at the elementary, there's been days where it's been, anywhere from, 3 to 5 in that area.
I think there's a lot.
I can get that data for you.
I was just wondering, just
Yep.
for
Mhm.
calculating money, I was just wondering.
I think there's at least one more transfer over to.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge right now is finding them
Mhm.
and competing, just look at the difference, okay, a sub's called 6 o'clock in the morning, I can go to Knoxville for 85, or I can go to, Galesburg calls and says, we can go there for 150. So, or if it's United or Abington or whatever, they may be at $100 right now, and we're at 85.
What's it do to the long-term pay rate?
as far as the bottom line, or?
Yeah, are you gonna increase that as well, or you wanna leave that the same?
I'm trying to understand your question, Darcy.
So,
pay rate.
long-term maternity leave.
Oh, for a long term.
For the long-term rate. Are you gonna?
Yeah, it's based, that's based on so many days, so many days we calculate like what year a first year teacher makes by percentage, and then they get that additional money, so, I would say not a huge effect. Not a big change. Because we plug in a formula, if they've been after here for 10 days subbing, after 10 days, it increases for long term. That percentage of the pay, of the salary schedule.
If there's no further discussion, would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion from Mr. Scout, second from Mrs. Young for approval of the pay increase for substitute teachers. Mrs. McCracken, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Hertzberg?
Yes.
Mrs. McCracken, yes. Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Stearns?
Yes. Item 9.3, approval of KHS early graduates. Open for discussion and action item. I would say I have not seen the list.
I haven't seen this.
Nope.
Yeah, we did last year.
You did?
Yeah.
That one would be like a cutoff date for them to be able to petition to graduate early. I know they had one last year. Kimmy missed it by 2 weeks.
Do we know how many?
Mr. Tucker, do you know?
I gave that Friday, I want to roughly say 7 or 8.
Okay.
7 maybe, something is the number.
I can tell you.
And you would verify that by the end of the first semester, they would, complete their graduation requirements?
Yes, I think these are around 3 estimates.
Okay, 6. Then we got to sign. Or if we approve it, we can sign off on that. So 6 students.
Yeah.
That's the requirement.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've gone through all that. They have to meet the requirements.
If I have no further discussion on it, I would need a motion to approve, KHS early graduates.
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Mrs. Young,
I'll second.
second from Mrs. Rose. Mrs. McCracken, will you please call?
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Dr. Hertzberg?
Yes.
Mrs. McCracken? Yes. Mr. Scout?
Yes.
Mr. Stearns?
Yes. Item 10, correspondence or other business. I do not have any correspondence.
I do not have any correspondence either, but I just have a little bit of other business, and I'm going to pass this down. And this is just basically for the board's review. I've been working with Mr. Mosky, and doing our research, we had determined that there really wasn't any retention policy in place at the junior high school. So what I had Mr. Mosky do is he reached out to other, just take the one sheet, reach out to other junior highs in our area, and I believe ROVA had something in place, but none of the other junior highs did. So we're in discussions, he's in discussion with his staff of putting together a policy rubric, and as of right now, this is what Mr. Mosky and the teachers have come up with. It's a point system. By no means, we're not close to, to presenting this in full to the board, but we wanted you to be privy to what we're doing and what we're researching. Also, Mr. Mosky wanted me to inform the board if anyone has any questions of what we initially have here, to call him. So the possible points follow certain criteria. If you look on the sheet, curriculum would be one, 8 possible points. And this is not carved in stone, this is all in planning and discussion. Objective assessment, 2 possible points. Attendance, 2 possible points. Teacher recommendation, 2 possible points. Now, of course, this would be in association with you know, with their grades and their scores and their assessments. But I think for too long now, I think there's been some situations where we've had students maybe come to the high school, not maybe, but have come to the high school, and there was really no accountability for some of the students where they really did what they needed to do academically and take care of business. So that's why we're looking on a retention policy, a rubric to follow. There's different retention scales out there, like Light's retention scale that I've used in the past. So a combination of that, what they earn with their grades, and then this retention policy rubric are some things that we're looking at. So basically, once again, this could fall into one of our committees, a curriculum committee, to discuss further. But I told Mr. Mosky I would present this tonight for you to look at as a board, and to look at it and see what you like, see what you don't like, and this will be ongoing. And so hopefully we find a final document that we can approve. But it's a concern. It's a concern. We need to make sure we're holding our students at the junior high accountable. Right now, there's just really nothing in place. But we're not alone, but I think we need to be the leaders at Knoxville and put something together. So that's what we've done, just initially. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Schooler. Look forward to seeing how this develops. I know that has been a discussion topic for a while now as well. If there's no other new business, I'd like to move on to item 11. That would be closed session. I need a motion and a second to move to closed session. Motion from Mr. Scow.
Second.
Second from Mrs. Young. Mrs. McCracken, please call.
Mr. Scout?
Yes.
Mrs. Young? Yes. Mr. Hertzberg?
Yes.
Mrs. McCracken, yes. Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Stern?
Yes. We will now move to closed session.
Hey, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Conference room, do you think that would be wide enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Just roll back.
That's what I heard. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hey, sorry for that.
No, you're not. Appreciate that. Yeah. And you and I talked, remember? She got live when I told you. Okay.
Yeah, we want to motion for the school.
Yeah, at the beginning of the school year, Mr. McLaren.
Yeah, we did this year.
Right at the beginning of the school year, that one was dealt with.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'll be there at 10. Yeah, those are the only microphones.
Yeah, I got the recorder.
Big cat.